The galaxy was vast, filled with countless species, but few were as intriguing as humanity. For centuries, alien civilizations had whispered tales of predators, species whose survival depended on hunting, whose instincts were sharp as blades, and whose history was stained with conquest and bloodshed. To the prey species of the galaxy, the concept of a predator was terrifying. And when the first transmissions from Earth reached the stars, the aliens knew they had found the ultimate predators. However, they did not anticipate what would come next. The Vinlio Republic, a coalition of prey species, was the first to contact Earth. Their message was cautious, bordering on fearful, as they outlined the rules of galactic society. Predators, they explained, were not welcomed warmly, they were seen as violent, dangerous, and incapable of coexistence. But humanity's response was a surprise. Instead of aggression, Earth extended a hand of peace, sending a delegation to prove their intentions. Among them was Commander Elena Vasquez, a seasoned leader with a fiery determination, and Dr. Aaron Reed, a xenobiologist fascinated by the psychology of prey species. Together, they were humanity's ambassadors to a galaxy that feared their very nature. When the human delegation arrived at Vinlio Prime, the reception was tense. The Vinlio were a small, herbivorous species, their large, expressive eyes constantly scanning for threats. At first sight of the humans, tall, upright, and sharp-featured, many Vinlio couldn't suppress their instincts. Some fainted outright, while others fled, their fear palpable. Despite this, the humans remained calm, their every action calculated to minimize the Vinlio's discomfort. They avoided sudden movements, spoke softly, and refrained from eating in public, knowing that even their dietary habits could be seen as a threat. Among the Vinlio, one individual stood out, Tarva, a scientist whose curiosity outweighed her fear. Unlike her peers, she didn't see the humans as monsters. She saw an opportunity to understand. Tarva volunteered to serve as a liaison, much to the dismay of her colleagues, who warned her about the dangers of working closely with predators. But Tarva's scientific mind was captivated by the paradox of humanity. How could a predator species display such empathy and restraint? As the days turned into weeks, Tarva's understanding of humanity deepened. She observed how the humans interacted with her people, their patience seemingly endless. They showed kindness to the Vinlio young, shared stories of their own struggles, and even adapted their behavior to put the Vinlio at ease. Tarva couldn't help but notice the humanity in their eyes, not the cold, calculating gaze of a hunter, but the warmth of a species capable of great compassion. One evening, as the twin moons of Vinlio Prime cast a silver glow over the landscape, Tarva sat with Dr. Reed under a sprawling tree. "Why do you do this?" she asked, her voice tinged with genuine curiosity. "You're predators. You could dominate us, yet you choose diplomacy. Why?" Dr. Reed smiled, his expression thoughtful. "Because we know what it's like to fear," he said. "Our history is filled with conflict, yes, but also with triumphs of cooperation. We've learned that strength isn't just in teeth and claws, it's in understanding, in building bridges instead of walls." Their conversation was interrupted by an emergency transmission. A neighboring system had been attacked by the Arxer, a true predator species known for their brutality. The Vinlio, despite their advanced technology, were ill-equipped to respond. For centuries, they had relied on hiding and fleeing to survive. But the humans saw this as a call to action. Commander Vasquez wasted no time mobilizing her team. "We can't just stand by," she said firmly. "We have to help them." The Vinlio were stunned. No predator had ever risked their lives for prey. Yet the humans launched their ships, deploying advanced strategies that combined strength with precision. The Arxer, accustomed to easy victories, were caught off guard by humanity's ferocity and tactical brilliance. The battle was fierce, but the humans emerged victorious, saving countless lives. To the Vinlio, it was nothing short of a miracle. In the aftermath, the perception of humanity began to shift. The Vinliel saw that while humans were predators, they were also protectors. They fought not for dominance but for justice, for the survival of those who couldn't defend themselves. Tarva, reflecting on the events, realized that humanity's nature was far more complex than she had imagined. They were not bound by the instincts that defined most predators, they had risen above them, creating a society built on principles of empathy and cooperation. As the alliance between humanity and the Vinliel grew stronger, the galaxy watched with a mix of awe and trepidation. Humanity's dual nature, both predator and protector, challenged the very foundation of galactic society. They were a species that embodied the best and worst of nature, capable of great destruction but also boundless compassion. And in their journey among the stars, they proved that the true measure of a species was not in their origins, but in the choices they made. For the Vinliel, and perhaps the galaxy, humanity was not just another predator. They were something entirely new, a force of nature that could reshape the stars. The ripple effects of humanity's intervention against the Arxer began to spread far and wide. For the first time in generations, the prey species of the galaxy began to see a glimmer of hope. It was not just the Vinliel who whispered about the strange, paradoxical humans who fought like apex predators but protected like shepherds, it was every species within the Galactic Alliance. News of their decisive victory, their willingness to risk their own lives for the vulnerable, and their uncanny ability to strategize as both hunters and defenders ignited a quiet revolution in how predators were viewed. Yet, not everyone was pleased. In the upper echelons of the Galactic Council, composed mostly of prey species, debates raged. Some argued that humanity's involvement, while commendable, was dangerous. "They may protect us now," said a council elder from the timid Farsal species, "but predators can never be trusted. History has taught us this. The humans could turn their teeth on us at any moment." Others, however, disagreed. Tarva, now acting as a de facto ambassador for humanity, spoke passionately in their defense. "They saved us when they didn't have to," she said. "If they wanted to dominate, they could have done so already. But they chose to stand with us, not above us." The humans, for their part, understood the suspicion. Dr. Reed made it his mission to help alien species understand humanity's capacity for empathy. He organized cultural exchanges, introducing the Vinliel to human art, literature, and even music. The first time Tarva heard Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, her large eyes shimmered with emotion. "How can a predator create something so gentle?" she asked. Dr. Reed smiled. "Because we're not just predators," he replied. "We're dreamers." Despite the growing goodwill, the threat of the Arxer loomed ever larger. Scouts reported that the defeated Arxer fleet had retreated but was regrouping in the shadows. They were known for their relentless aggression, and their hatred for any species they considered weak was unparalleled. The Vinliel and their allies, while emboldened by humanity's help, knew they lacked the strength to fight alone. The humans proposed a radical solution: train the prey species to fight. It was an idea that sent shockwaves through the Alliance. Prey species had evolved to avoid confrontation, not embrace it. But humanity saw potential where others saw weakness. Commander Vasquez personally took charge of the effort, designing training programs that emphasized strategy, teamwork, and the use of technology to compensate for physical limitations. The Vinliel were hesitant at first, but under Vasquez's guidance, they began to see themselves differently. "We've spent so long running," Tarva said during one training session. "But maybe it's time we learn to stand." As the training progressed, bonds between humans and Vinliel deepened. Soldiers from both species began working side by side, sharing meals, stories, and even laughter. The humans' ability to disarm fear with humor and kindness became a cornerstone of the Alliance's unity. Tarva found herself growing particularly close to Vasquez, admiring her strength and unwavering resolve. "You fight like you have nothing to lose," Tarva said one evening. Vasquez shook her head. I fight like I have everything to lose, she replied. Because I do. The turning point came when the Arxur launched a massive assault on a border world, a lush, resource-rich planet inhabited by the timid Tillfish species. The Tillfish, known for their skittishness, had no means of defense. Without hesitation, the humans and their newly trained allies deployed to intercept the invasion. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. The humans led the charge, their predator instincts honed into a force of precision and purpose, while the Venliel and other prey species fought alongside them, their fear transformed into determination. The battlefield was chaos, blaster fire streaking through the air, the roars of Arxur warriors clashing with the shouts of human soldiers. Tarva, who had insisted on observing the battle from a command center, watched in awe as the Alliance forces worked together seamlessly. A Venliel medic saved a wounded human sniper. A human engineer rigged a trap that allowed a Tillfish squad to escape an ambush. For the first time, predator and prey fought as equals, their differences becoming their greatest strength. When the dust settled, the Alliance stood victorious. The Arxur had been dealt a blow they wouldn't soon recover from, and the Alliance's unity had been forged in the fires of battle. Tarva, addressing the Alliance forces after the battle, spoke with a voice that resonated across species. Today, we proved that the nature of predators does not define us, she said. Nor does the nature of prey. Together, we are something more, something stronger. In the aftermath, the galaxy began to change. The stigma surrounding predators began to fade, replaced by a new understanding of balance and cooperation. Humanity's dual nature, the predator and the protector, had become an example for all. They showed that strength could be tempered by compassion, that survival didn't have to come at the expense of others. For humanity, the journey was far from over. They knew the galaxy was still a dangerous place, filled with challenges they had yet to face. But they also knew they wouldn't face them alone. As the humans and their newfound allies looked to the stars, they carried with them a shared dream, a dream of a galaxy where predator and prey could stand side by side, not as enemies, but as partners in the endless adventure of existence. In the years that followed, the alliance between humanity and the prey species transformed the galactic landscape. What began as a cautious partnership had blossomed into a profound and dynamic collaboration. Humanity's role as both a guiding force and a defender solidified their place among the stars, but the journey toward true unity was fraught with new challenges. As the galaxy adjusted to humanity's presence, tensions began to arise from unexpected places. Not all prey species embraced the alliance. Some, like the Kolshians, a species known for their historical dominance over the prey coalition, began to question the balance of power. They argued that humanity's influence was growing too quickly, that their predator instincts, no matter how restrained, would eventually lead to conflict. "They may stand with us now," said a Kolshian delegate during a council meeting, "but what happens when their hunger outweighs their ideals?" These accusations hurt humanity's leaders, who had worked tirelessly to build trust. Elena Vasquez, now an influential figure on the Galactic Council, stood to respond. "We've never hidden who we are," she said firmly. "Yes, we're predators. But we've also proven we can be partners. Our instincts don't define us, our choices do. And we choose to stand with you, not against you." Despite her words, the seeds of doubt had been sown. Anti-human sentiment began to rise among certain factions, fueled by fear and propaganda. Tarva, now humanity's closest ally, worked tirelessly to counteract these efforts. She traveled from planet to planet, speaking about her experiences and the profound changes the Venliel had undergone. "Humanity taught us that fear can be overcome," she told a crowded amphitheater on a distant prey world. "They showed us that strength isn't just physical, it's in standing together, even when it's difficult." But the divisions within the alliance weren't the only threat. The Arxur, though weakened, had not been idle. Their leaders, enraged by their defeats, began adapting their strategies. No longer relying solely on brute force, they started employing psychological warfare, spreading disinformation about humanity's intentions. They painted humans as conquerors in disguise, predators who used kindness as a weapon to subdue the galaxy. The Arxer's tactics succeeded in sowing discord, and whispers of mistrust began to circulate even among humanity's allies. Amid this turmoil, Dr. Aaron Reed made a breakthrough. While studying Arxer biology, he discovered signs of genetic manipulation, a possible indication that the Arxer's aggression wasn't entirely natural. Ancient records suggested they had once been a more balanced species, but something had forced them down the path of predation. The revelation sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Could the Arxer be victims, shaped by some unknown force? And if so, could they be redeemed? The discovery reignited humanity's determination. Vasquez proposed a bold plan, to infiltrate an Arxer stronghold and gather more information about their origins. The mission would be dangerous, but the potential for understanding, and perhaps even peace, was too great to ignore. A mixed team of humans and Van'Lil volunteered, with Tarva insisting on joining despite Vasquez's protests. "If we're going to face them," Tarva said, "we need to show them that even prey can be brave." The infiltration mission was a harrowing journey into the heart of enemy territory. The Arxer world was a stark contrast to the lush planets of the prey species. Its skies were perpetually overcast, its cities a maze of cold, brutalist architecture. The team navigated through danger, relying on humanity's adaptability and the Van'Lil's keen senses to evade detection. Along the way, they encountered evidence of the Arxer suffering, malnourished civilians, rigid societal structures, and a pervasive atmosphere of fear. It was clear the Arxer were not a monolith of evil, they were a broken people, trapped in a cycle of violence. When the team finally accessed the central database, they uncovered the truth. Millennia ago, the Arxer had been manipulated by an ancient, now extinct species that sought to create the ultimate predator. Through genetic engineering and psychological conditioning, the Arxer's natural instincts had been amplified to monstrous levels. The experiments had left them scarred, their society fractured and incapable of escape from the predator role they had been forced into. The team barely escaped with the data, their return to Allied space marked by a mix of relief and determination. The revelations about the Arxer changed the conversation within the Alliance. No longer were they seen as irredeemable monsters, they were victims of a cruelty far greater than anyone had imagined. Humanity, with their dual nature as predators and protectors, proposed an ambitious plan, to extend an olive branch to the Arxer. The proposal was met with fierce resistance. Many prey species couldn't fathom the idea of peace with their most feared enemy. But humanity argued that breaking the cycle of hatred was the only way to ensure a future free from constant war. "If we let fear dictate our actions," Vasquez said during a council meeting, "we'll never move forward. We have to be brave enough to try." The first contact with the Arxer under this new initiative was tense. Vasquez, Tarva, and Dr. Reed led the delegation, meeting with a faction of Arxer dissidents who had grown disillusioned with their leaders. The negotiations were fraught with mistrust, but over time, common ground was found. The Arxer dissidents, inspired by humanity's example, agreed to work toward reform, hoping to rebuild their society into something more balanced. This fragile alliance marked the beginning of a new era. The galaxy, once divided by fear, was slowly learning the power of understanding. Humanity's journey from feared predator to trusted protector had redefined what was possible. They had shown that even the most entrenched instincts could be overcome, that empathy and cooperation could triumph over centuries of conflict. As humanity and their allies continued their journey among the stars, they carried a message that resonated across all species: the nature of predators and prey did not define them. What mattered most were the choices they made and the future they dared to dream together. The fragile alliance between humanity, the prey species, and the Arxer dissidents sparked both hope and trepidation across the galaxy. The Galactic Council found itself in uncharted waters, trying to manage an unprecedented shift in interstellar relations. While many welcomed the prospect of peace, others clung tightly to their fear, warning that trusting the Arxer, no matter the circumstances, was a gamble too great to take. The galaxy teetered on the edge of transformation, with humanity once again at the center. The Arxur dissidents, led by a charismatic and pragmatic leader named Krall, began working with the Alliance to initiate reforms. Krall had lived through the worst of the Arxur regime, witnessing the indoctrination and systemic violence that had consumed their society. His willingness to collaborate surprised even the humans, who saw in him a reflection of their own struggle to overcome darker instincts. Krall's first act was to secure the release of prey prisoners from Arxur camps, a symbolic gesture of goodwill that sent shockwaves across the galaxy. However, this move was met with fierce resistance from the Arxur elite, who saw Krall and his followers as traitors. The Arxur regime launched a brutal campaign to crush the dissidents, forcing the fledgling Alliance to step in. For the first time, humans, prey species, and Arxur dissidents fought side by side against a common enemy. The battles were grueling, testing the limits of trust between former adversaries. Yet, time and again, the Alliance proved resilient. The combined strength of their diverse tactics, human ingenuity, prey adaptability, and Arxur ferocity, began to turn the tide. Amid the chaos, personal bonds deepened. Tarva and Krall, despite their vastly different backgrounds, found themselves aligned in their vision of a united galaxy. Their conversations, often held late into the night, revealed the shared struggles of prey and predator to break free from their evolutionary programming. "You and I," Krall said one evening, "were both born into roles we didn't choose. But perhaps we can forge something new, something neither prey nor predator has ever imagined." Dr. Reed's research into the Arxur's genetic manipulation also began bearing fruit. Working with both human and Arxur scientists, he developed a treatment that could partially mitigate the aggressive instincts hardwired into the Arxur. While not a cure, it offered a glimmer of hope for future generations. The breakthrough further solidified the Alliance, with Krall declaring it a cornerstone of the Arxur's path to redemption. "Our scars may never fully heal," Krall said during a historic council meeting, "but we can ensure our children are born free from the chains that bound us." Yet, as progress was made, darker forces conspired to undo it. The Kolshian elite, who had long dominated the Prey Coalition, viewed humanity's rising influence in the integration of the Arxur with increasing alarm. Secretly, they began working to undermine the Alliance, spreading disinformation and sabotaging key initiatives. Their actions culminated in a catastrophic attack, a Kolshian warship, disguised as an Arxur vessel, fired upon a Vinlil colony. The resulting devastation reignited fears and threatened to unravel everything the Alliance had built. The deception was uncovered by a joint human-Vinlil investigation, but the damage was done. Trust across the Alliance had been shaken, and calls for retribution against the Arxur grew louder. It was a moment of crisis that tested humanity's ideals to their core. Commander Vasquez, who had become a symbol of humanity's commitment to peace, stood before the Galactic Council and delivered a speech that would go down in history. "We have come too far to let fear and hatred consume us again," she said, her voice unwavering. "Yes, there are those who would see us divided, who profit from our mistrust. But we are stronger than that. This alliance, this fragile, imperfect union, is proof that we can rise above our nature. We must hold fast to that belief, even in the face of betrayal." Her words galvanized the Alliance, but actions spoke louder. Humanity led a coordinated effort to rebuild the Vinlil colony, with humans, prey species, and even Arxur dissidents working side by side. The image of Krall, towering over a group of Vinlil children as he helped clear rubble, became a symbol of hope. The Kolshians' plot had failed, their manipulation exposed, and their influence within the council diminished. As the Alliance recovered, the galaxy began to change in ways few could have predicted. The integration of the Arxur dissidents into galactic society, while slow and fraught with challenges, opened the door to a new understanding of unity. Prey species began adopting human strategies of self-defense, no longer relying solely on flight but learning to stand their ground. The Arxur, once seen as irredeemable, began to redefine themselves, guided by the example set by Krall and humanity. Years later, A monument was erected on a neutral world, a towering structure depicting a human, a Vinlio, and an Arxer standing together. Beneath it, an inscription read, "Strength through understanding, unity through choice." Humanity's journey from feared predator to trusted protector had reshaped the galaxy. They had proven that the nature of predators, and prey, could be transcended. And as they looked to the stars, the Alliance knew that while their work was far from over, they had taken the first steps toward a future where all species could thrive together, free from the shadows of their past. The monument became a beacon, its inscription a mantra whispered across the galaxy. Generations of beings, human, Vinlio, Arxer, and countless others, traveled to see it, leaving offerings, inscriptions, and symbols of unity. For some, it was a place of reflection, a reminder of what they had endured. For others, it was a call to action, a promise that the fight for understanding was a journey, not a destination. The Alliance, though forged in hardship, faced new challenges in the wake of its successes. With peace taking hold, the task shifted from survival to prosperity. Rebuilding war-torn planets, mending fractured societies, and fostering interspecies collaboration required a level of coordination never before seen. Humanity's adaptability and relentless optimism continued to shine, but their leaders knew that old wounds took time to heal. Academy, a sprawling institution built on a lush, terraformed world. The Academy became a hub for learning, where species from all corners of the galaxy sent their brightest minds. Courses ranged from interspecies diplomacy to engineering, medicine, and even the arts. The Vinlio, inspired by humanity's creativity, quickly became known for their music and sculpture. Meanwhile, the Arxer, guided by their dissident leaders, explored philosophy and ethics, discovering a new side of themselves long buried under centuries of survivalist indoctrination. Tarva, now a revered elder within the Alliance, often visited the Academy. She would sit with students, sharing stories of her early days with humanity and the lessons she'd learned. Her bond with Krall remained strong, and the two often spoke at events, their partnership symbolizing what was possible when trust overcame fear. Tarva once remarked, "If someone had told me years ago that I would count an Arxer among my closest allies, I would have laughed. But now I see that bravery isn't the absence of fear, it's the willingness to face it." Despite these strides, dissent still lingered. The Kolshian elite, though diminished in power, continued to stir unrest. They pointed to the Arxer's dark past, warning that peace was a facade, that predators would eventually revert to their nature. These voices gained traction in isolated systems, where fear still held sway. The Alliance responded not with suppression, but with outreach, sending delegations of mixed species to these worlds. Their message was simple: unity wasn't perfect, but it was better than the alternative. Dr. Reed, now hailed as one of humanity's greatest minds, led an initiative to address the root causes of such fear. His team worked tirelessly to develop therapies and educational programs that bridged cultural divides. "Understanding isn't innate," he often said. "It's something we build, one conversation at a time." Meanwhile, Commander Vasquez took on a new role as the head of the Alliance's peacekeeping forces. Though the Arxer regime had been toppled, splinter factions remained a threat. Vasquez, ever pragmatic, ensured that the Alliance's military was prepared, but she also emphasized humanitarian missions. Under her leadership, the peacekeepers became as much a symbol of aid as they were of strength. One of the most pivotal moments came when a rogue Arxer faction launched a surprise attack on an Alliance research station. The assault, though devastating, was swiftly countered by a combined force of human and Arxer dissidents. During the battle, Krall himself led his troops, risking everything to protect the very beings his species once hunted. When the smoke cleared, Krall addressed the galaxy in a broadcast that would echo through history. "We are not bound by the sins of our ancestors," he declared. "We are not slaves to our nature. Today, we fought not as predator and prey, but as allies. This is the future we choose." The broadcast marked a turning point. Even the most skeptical factions within the Alliance began to see the Arxer in a new light. Over time, integration deepened. Mixed species colonies sprang up, where humans, Vinlio, Arxer, and others lived and worked together. These colonies became living experiments in unity, their successes and struggles teaching the galaxy invaluable lessons. As decades passed, the Alliance's influence spread. New species, once isolated by fear or mistrust, joined its ranks. Humanity's reputation as both predator and protector remained central to the Alliance's identity. Their duality, their capacity for destruction tempered by their drive for creation, became a source of inspiration. Humanity's stories, their music, their triumphs and failures, were shared across the stars, reminding all who listened that progress was possible, even in the face of insurmountable odds. Tarva lived to see the Alliance flourish, her legacy secure. On her final visit to the monument, she stood with Krall and Vasquez, gazing at the inscription that had come to define their lives. "We've built something extraordinary," she said softly. "Something worth protecting." Krall nodded, his sharp features softened by time. "And something worth continuing," he added. As the stars above shimmered, a new generation of beings prepared to take up the mantle. They would face their own challenges, navigate their own struggles. But they would do so guided by the lessons of those who came before, lessons of courage, compassion, and the unyielding belief that the galaxy's true strength lay in its diversity. And so, the Alliance marched forward, a testament to what could be achieved when fear gave way to understanding, when the nature of predators and prey was rewritten not by biology, but by choice. Generations passed, and the Alliance became a cornerstone of galactic civilization. What had once been a precarious experiment now thrived as a shining example of unity. The monument, now surrounded by sprawling gardens and bustling plazas, stood as a gathering place for species from across the stars. It was not just a reminder of the past but a symbol of the future, a future shaped by the choices of those who dared to defy their natures. The Galactic Integration Academy, once a fledgling institution, had grown into a nexus of innovation and diplomacy. It produced leaders, thinkers, and artists who carried the ideals of the Alliance to every corner of the galaxy. Among its alumni were humans, Vinliel, Arxer, and members of countless other species, their shared education fostering an unprecedented sense of camaraderie. The Academy's motto, "Strength through unity, wisdom through diversity," embodied the principles that had guided the Alliance from the beginning. But progress never came without struggle. On the fringes of the galaxy, old fears and prejudices lingered. Splinter groups, resistant to change, occasionally rose to challenge the Alliance's ideals. These factions often sought to exploit differences, spreading propaganda that reignited ancient fears. Yet, time and again, they were met not with retaliation, but with dialogue. The Alliance's strength lay not in force, but in its ability to listen, to learn, and to grow. One of the most poignant examples of this came when a new species, the Zelvax, made contact. The Zelvax were an insular people, their history marked by deep mistrust of outsiders. When they first encountered the Alliance, they were wary, perceiving it as a monolithic power that threatened their sovereignty. Humanity, with its history of overcoming mistrust, took the lead in reaching out. They sent not diplomats, but storytellers, humans who shared tales of Earth's struggles, its wars and reconciliations, its moments of despair and triumph. Slowly, the Zelvax began to see the Alliance not as a threat, but as a tapestry of voices, each adding its own thread. Among the most celebrated storytellers was a human named Mara Patel, whose narratives wove together the histories of predator and prey, showing how their intertwined destinies had created something extraordinary. Her most famous performance took place in a Zelvok amphitheater, where she stood alongside a Vinliel poet and an Arxer musician. Together, they told the story of the Alliance's birth, their words and melodies blending into a symphony of hope. By the end, the Zelvok leaders had tears in their eyes, their mistrust beginning to thaw. Even as the Alliance expanded, humanity continued to grapple with its own nature. On Earth, now a hub of interstellar diplomacy and culture, debates raged about what it meant to be human in a galaxy so vast and diverse. Some feared losing their identity amid the blend of cultures, while others saw humanity's adaptability as its greatest strength. The arts flourished in this era of introspection, with works that explored the duality of humanity's predator and protector instincts. One particularly famous sculpture, The Balance, depicted a human figure holding both a blade and an olive branch, symbolizing the choice that defined their species. Meanwhile, the Arxer underwent a profound transformation. With the help of genetic therapies and cultural exchange, their society began to heal. Krall's vision of a new Arxer identity took root, fostering a generation that embraced creativity, compassion, and cooperation. Their contributions to the Alliance grew, their once feared presence now a source of pride. Arxur engineers designed advanced starships, their efficiency rivaled only by their elegance. Arxur chefs introduced their cuisine to the galaxy, their once utilitarian approach to food blossoming into an art form. As the Alliance's influence grew, so did its challenges. Explorers pushed into uncharted regions, encountering both wonder and peril. Ancient ruins hinted at civilizations that had risen and fallen long before the Alliance's time, their lessons buried in the stars. Among these discoveries was an artifact of immense power, an enigmatic device capable of manipulating gravity on a planetary scale. Its existence posed a question that transcended species: how would the Alliance wield such power? The debate over the artifact became a defining moment for the Alliance. Some argued it should be used to terraform barren worlds, creating new homes for countless beings. Others feared it could become a weapon, its potential for destruction too great to risk. Humanity, with its history of both creation and conflict, took a leading role in the discussions. Ultimately, the Alliance decided to safeguard the artifact, placing it under the stewardship of a coalition of species. It was a testament to their commitment to cooperation, a choice that reflected their hard-earned wisdom. In the quiet moments, as humanity and its allies gazed at the stars, they were reminded of how far they had come. The galaxy was no longer defined by the dichotomy of predator and prey, but by the infinite possibilities of collaboration. Tarva and Krall, Vasquez and Dr. Reed, these names were etched into history, their stories passed down as legends. But the Alliance's true legacy lay not in its heroes, but in the countless lives it had touched, the bonds it had forged, and the dreams it had inspired. And so, the Alliance continued its journey, a living testament to the power of choice. It was a galaxy reshaped not by the nature of its inhabitants, but by their willingness to rise above it. Together, they reached for the stars, not as predators or prey, but as something entirely new. As the Alliance journeyed deeper into the uncharted territories of the galaxy, they found themselves on the precipice of a new era, one defined not just by unity but by exploration, discovery, and self-reinvention. The stars stretched infinitely before them, their light carrying whispers of civilizations yet unknown and mysteries yet unsolved. Each member of the Alliance approached this future with the hard-won wisdom of their shared past, determined to face it together. The frontier worlds, situated at the edges of known space, became bustling hubs of innovation. These planets served as laboratories for the Alliance's ideals, where species mingled freely and contributed their unique strengths to build thriving communities. It was here that humanity's adaptability shone brightest. Colonists from Earth worked alongside Vinlil agrarians, Arxur engineers, and Zelvok artisans to create settlements that embodied harmony. One of the most ambitious projects was the construction of a massive space station known as Horizon's Embrace, positioned at the boundary between explored and unexplored space. The station was envisioned as a gateway to the unknown, housing explorers, scientists, and diplomats. Its design was a marvel of interspecies collaboration, blending the utilitarian efficiency of Arxur architecture with the organic elegance of Vinlil aesthetics and the vibrant creativity of human innovation. From Horizon's Embrace, exploratory missions launched into the void. Humanity's curiosity, tempered by the cautious wisdom of the prey species and the resilience of the Arxur, drove these efforts. The teams uncovered ancient relics of civilizations that had long since vanished, each discovery deepening the Alliance's understanding of the galaxy's history. Some artifacts revealed startling truths, evidence of a primordial race that may have been responsible for the genetic manipulation of the Arxur. These discoveries reignited debates within the Alliance, forcing them to confront the ethical implications of their past actions and their future decisions. Amid this expansion, the Alliance faced its greatest existential challenge yet. A transmission from deep space reached Horizon's Embrace, carrying a message unlike anything they had encountered before. It was not a distress signal, nor a threat, but a simple phrase repeated in countless languages, some familiar, others entirely alien: "We are watching." The message sparked widespread intrigue and unease. Who were the Watchers, and what was their purpose? Was this a warning, an invitation, or something else entirely? The Alliance convened an emergency summit, bringing together representatives from all member species. The debates were impassioned, reflecting the fears and hopes of a galaxy that had already overcome so much. Humanity, with its insatiable curiosity, advocated for a cautious yet proactive response. "If they're watching," Commander Vasquez said during the summit, "then let's show them who we are. Let's show them what we've built together." Her words resonated deeply, reminding the Alliance of the strength they had found in unity. An expedition was organized to trace the origin of the transmission. The team consisted of members from across the Alliance, a human linguist, a Van'leil diplomat, an Arxur strategist, a Zelvok historian, and others. Their journey into the unknown became a microcosm of the Alliance itself, each member contributing their perspective and skills. Along the way, they encountered breathtaking phenomena, stars surrounded by artificial megastructures, planets encased in shimmering energy fields, and alien species that had never encountered the Alliance before. The journey was not without its trials. The deeper they traveled, the more they encountered evidence of a civilization that had transcended physical form, a species so advanced that their presence was felt only in the faint echoes of their creations. The Watchers, it seemed, were not gods or conquerors, but observers, studying the galaxy's younger civilizations with detached curiosity. The expedition's final discovery was a vast, crystalline structure orbiting a dying star. Inside, they found a repository of knowledge, a library encoded in light and sound, containing the collective wisdom of the Watchers. It was both a gift and a challenge, offering insights into the nature of existence while posing questions that defied comprehension. Among the recordings was a message directed specifically to the Alliance: "You are not bound by what you were. Your path is your own to shape. Choose wisely." The expedition returned to Horizon's embrace with their findings, sparking a renaissance of thought across the Alliance. The Watchers' message became a rallying cry for continued growth and self-reflection. It was a reminder that their greatest strength lay not in their technology or their numbers, but in their ability to choose compassion, cooperation, and understanding over fear and division. As the Alliance absorbed the lessons of the Watchers, they continued to expand into the galaxy, not as conquerors, but as explorers and stewards. The monument on that distant world, with its inscription of unity, became more than a relic of the past. It was a promise to the future, a commitment to the ideals that had brought them together. And so, the Alliance endured, a beacon of hope in an ever-changing galaxy. They knew the path ahead would not be easy, but they were ready. Together, they would face the unknown, guided by the belief that their nature was not their destiny, and that the stars held endless possibilities for those brave enough to reach for them.